All right, happy Sunday, everyone. It's August 25th, and we are here with another Fed League Flash. We're looking back at a very crucial year in the history and development of the FPHL, the 2021 to 22 season. There really, there's big moments of uh, importance in every year of the Fed in its history, but the 3 years really that were the most crucial were the first. Are they going to survive? Are they going to make it? The fifth year, that was the first year in which they were starting to expand after kind of contracting down to four teams for a couple of years. And then this year, which was right after COVID, um, a lot of uncertainty in the league at the time that the pandemic hit. And so this really ended up being a very, very important, pivotal year in the history of the Fed. All right, just to give you some background, we have to go to before everything got shut down by COVID. In the 2019 to 20 season, the team had expanded to 10 teams. Now, two of those teams were put together kind of at the last minute. That was Delaware and the infamous Battle Creek Rumblebees. Um, there was only about 3 months before the start of the season when the teams were announced, about 4 months. But that's a very short period of time to get corporate sponsorship, to get ticket sales going, marketing, promotion, formulating a roster, all that stuff. It takes time. And those two teams were almost built to fail. But the league did have big plans. Not only did the 10 teams play, that was Danbury, Elmira, that was the Enforcers, Watertown, the Mentor Icebreakers, Delaware, you had Carolina, Port Huron, the first iteration of Danville Dashers, you had Columbus, and of course Battle Creek. There were also plans of expansion for the 20 to 21 season in Bloomington, Illinois, and also potentially in Memphis. And both of those plans went awry, as we'll talk about in a bit. So the background is yes, you have the 10 teams, and unfortunately, March 12th, the league makes the announcement. Yeah, we're shutting down for the time being. Of course, things never resumed. There was no champion that year. Things were just suspended. Um, Shortly after the conclusion of the season, Battle Creek announced, "Yeah, we're waving the white flag. We're done. We've lost like $130,000." So they were out, and then in addition, uh, Bloomington said, "Well, we're going to hold off on joining the Fed. We'll see what happens." And then it just kind of fell off the face of the map. Um, so now those opportunities are gone. Meanwhile, talks have broken down in Memphis. At that point in time, it was Andreas Johansson, the owner of the Binghamton Black Bears, and a team that were negotiating with Memphis, and that fell apart. So the league goes into uh, the COVID year, the 2020 to 21 season, with just 8 teams left. As you know, Mentor shut down. They said, "Yeah, we can't afford to keep operating," and Battle Creek was now gone. So yeah, 8 teams, and then because of the travel restrictions and costs involved, 4 of the teams opted not to play in the Ignite Cup series. Fake championship. Sorry, Columbus. But anyway, so during the COVID year, we had Elmira, we had Columbus, we had Carolina, and Port Huron that participated in a shortened season. By average, teams played like 23, 24 games, and then the final two teams met in the championship for the Ignite Cup. Columbus beat Elmira, and little did anyone know that that was the last we were going to see of the Elmira Enforcers. So now we're down to 7. And, oh, no, wait a minute. Now we're down to 6 because who's the other team that folds? Oh, yeah, the Dashers. Basically, the arena said, you know what? We got this opportunity, supposedly, from the SPHL. We're kicking the Dashers out. We're going to go with the Vermilion County Bobcats. Mistake. So anyway, now the league is down to 6 teams. There was an announcement of Motor City Rockers being an expansion team, but Motor City said, we're not ready. We want to join the Fed, but this isn't the time. So they put things on hold, kind of a suspended animation, if you will. All right, so finally, by 2021, all the restrictions had been lifted. Teams could get back to playing. Fans could come into the arena to see the teams played. But the league, as hurriedly as they expanded to 10, they fell back to 6. So, the league said, "Well, let's see what we can do." By good fortune for the FPHL, the AHL pulled out of Binghamton, and Andreas Johansson, who now was the owner in Watertown, saw an opportunity. He and Don Kiernan decided, yes, we're going to place a team in Binghamton. And so they co-owned the team that first year, this season. And so now the league was 7. All right, so a little bit of stability coming in. All right, so that's kind of the background. There were a lot of teams that fell by the wayside, but a lot of new teams were on the horizon. Binghamton had joined. Motor City would join another year later. So, things were looking good, and there were also negotiations going on in Biloxi, where now you have the Mississippi Seawolves. So, anyway, this was kind of a test year. Are the fans going to come back? We hope. Now, in the season before COVID hit, the 2019 to 2020 season, the league had the 10 teams drew 332,000 fans from the beginning of the season until March 12th when the league got shut down. So, decent numbers. But here we go, heading into this season. And just looking at the standings real quick, you can see how things went. Watertown had a stacked team that year. They had players like Alexander Jemaev. They had Lane King. They had Justin McDonald. They had Ryan Devine. Brett Clark was behind the bench. This team was stacked. So, yeah, they were able to win the league with a 43-12-4 record, 129 points. Now, you'll notice one thing. Not everybody played the same amount of games, which was really weird. So the league said, all right, first tiebreaker is the point percentage. That's why you see Columbus with 101 points, higher winning percentage, ahead of Danbury, played 61 games, and had a lower win percentage because of overtime wins primarily. So that gave Columbus the second place seeding, and that was very important. All right, Columbus, 32-17-5, 101 points, And you'll see they didn't allow many goals, 161 goals. That was the fewest of any team in the league that year. In a year that defense was not a priority. A lot of goals scored and a lot of goals given up. Danbury finishes up 36-22 in 305 points, but that winning percentage again is lower, 574. So they're the third seed. We'll get back to that in a minute. 253 goals scored for them. Watertown, 290 goals scored, most of anybody in the league by just a hair, because Binghamton in fourth place, 32-25-2, 94 points, 288 goals scored, but they gave up a ton of goals, 283. So despite being in fourth place, they only had a +5 goal differential. Carolina, a little bit of an off year for them this last year, and somehow they ended up playing the most games of anyone, 62 games, and they were 31-26-5, 92 points, 243 goals scored. Port Huron, they struggled this year. This was a rough year, 18-32-4, 56 points, only scored 191 goals. That was their Achilles heel. They didn't put enough pucks in the net. 256 goals against, which is kind of middle of the pack. Meanwhile, Delaware, they were Delaware. A really rough year, very tumultuous, and they end up putting together a record of 9-42-2, 26 points. Obviously, they did not qualify for the playoffs because 6 teams qualified for the playoffs. It was announced in February of 2021 that the top 6 teams were going to earn playoff berths. Top 2 seeds, top 2 teams would get bye weeks. The third place team would get the opportunity to choose their opponent. So that's where this whole thing comes in with Danbury having more points than Columbus. And it's kind of like, well, all right, at least we get the reward of choosing our opponent. All right, so the question is, why did they choose Binghamton? Travel. Main reason, travel. Because these games were best of 3 series, and it was back-to-back days. You travel to the lower seed gets the first game. Then the very next day, you've got to travel home and play on home ice. So Danbury looked at things and said, you know what? It's only a 3-hour trip to Binghamton. Travel's not going to kill us. So we'll be fresher for our home games. And that strategy paid off. Imagine if they chose Port Huron or Carolina. That's a lot of travel. All right, so in the year, we had several leaders, and I wanted to highlight the top scorer of each team. Justin McDonald, surprise, surprise, leads the league in scoring, 60 goals, 117 points. He was a tour de force. You had the rookie Nikita Ivashkin for the Binghamton Black Bears, 56 goals, 98 points. Tyler George also had 98 points, but he had 1 less goal, so Ivashkin ended up being the second place finisher. Ryan Marker, you remember him. Dynamic, incredibly talented player. Much too short of career. He chose to retire, just personal reasons. 42 goals, 95 points for a Delaware team that, as you can see, they had a hard time scoring goals. But he had 42 of the team's 175 goals. So, just a fantastic season for Ryan Marker. Alexander Jamea for Watertown, 48 goals, 91 points. Johnny Ruiz is the top scorer for the Danbury Hat Tricks. What a surprise. Ruiz with 49 goals, 85 points. Gus Ford, as a rookie, comes in, 43 goals, 84 points. His worst season, of the 3 that he's played in the Fed. And, he still ends up being the 7th leading scorer in the league. Josh Petrantonio for Columbus, he's a top River Dragon, 38 goals, 81 points. And Dalton J., he finished 12th in scoring. He led the Port Huron Prowlers in scoring 34 goals, 71 points. Other leaders that year, J-Mac, a plus 88. A plus 88. Incredible. Also 10 game-winning goals out of the 43. So McDonald was clutch. Tyler Jurich led the league with 16 power play goals. Dalton J. had 4 shorties to lead the league. And the leading assist man that year was Kyle Powell for the Binghamton Black Bears, 67 assists from the blue line. As far as the goaltenders, Chris Paulin led the league in wins with the Carolina Thunderbirds with 21. And Bailey McBurney, some of you may remember him, he ended up basically leading in every other major statistic. Save percentage, 917. Goals against, 2.70. Yeah, 2.70 led the league. And McBurney had the only shutout for the year. So we get to the playoffs. And like I said, Danbury had chosen Binghamton as their opponent. So the Binghamton being the lower seed, the first game is in Binghamton. And surprise, surprise, in overtime, Binghamton wins. So they head back to Danbury. Danbury returns the favor, winning in overtime in a close game, obviously, 5-4 victory. And then game 3, Danbury overpowered the Black Bears 5-3 to move on to the next series. All right. Carolina, meanwhile, took on the Port Huron Prowlers and won that series with a pair of 4-3 victories. So now Carolina, as the lower seed, ended up taking on Watertown. Meanwhile, Danbury got the chance to play Columbus. And very quick series, both of them. Watertown overpowers the Thunderbirds 4-1 and 3-1 to move on to the finals. Meanwhile, Columbus, I don't know, maybe Danbury got gassed. Who knows? But Columbus was fresh. They were ready, and they won 7-4 and 5-1 to move to the finals. It was a best-of-3 series because, like last year, Columbus, the ice gets pulled out early at the Columbus Civic Center. So it was like, we're only available for one game at home. So that first game, Columbus wins at home 3-2. They move to Watertown. Watertown wins decisively in game 2, 4-1. And then in the third game, it's a 2-2 tie. It goes to overtime. Lane King scores the championship winning goal, and Watertown wins the series 2-1 with a 3-2 victory to win their third Commissioner's Cup. All right. Meanwhile, during the series, 3 games were played in Biloxi to kind of help build up that market to prepare for the future inclusion of the Mississippi Seawolves. As far as attendance, as you see, there are the averages. Binghamton had the top draw that year, 3,006, which is great for your first-year club. Carolina was a little lower than they had been before COVID, still 2,400 fans going through the gates, and Columbus, 2,500 fans. So you add everything together through the year, 356,000 fans went through the turnstiles that year, which was 24,000, better than 2019-2020. So the question of, are the fans going to come back, was answered. It was a resounding yes. Fans were thrilled to have pro hockey back. And so the league said, all right, we have the green light. Let's expand. Elmira opened up for the following year after this. New ownership, new team. It was the Elmira Mammoth. The Motor City Rockers said, okay, it's time. We're ready. We're gonna jump in. And the Mississippi Seawolves. So the following year, we went from 7 teams to 10. So big expansion. Um, then for this last year, of course, we had the addition of Baton Rouge and Blue Ridge, and then this past off season, oh great, we got 3 more teams: Athens, Dashers, and Monroe. So now here we are, just 3 years removed from this season, and the league has doubled, and very effectively too. So the crucial period going through this year, the league passed with flying colors. Yeah, we're ready. We're back. We're ready to move forward and expand and grow, just like we planned before COVID, came into play in the first place. So there we go. There is our look at the 2021 to 22 season. Do you remember the season? This was the year that hooked me on the Fed. I was skeptical at first. I started watching the games on YouTube, and it was like, this isn't bad hockey. Now the talent level is way better now than it was this year overall, which is great. The league has doubled in size, and the talent has gotten better, which is great. But anyway, this again was a really important year, big year in Fed history. And so there you go. There's a look back at one of the most important seasons in the history of the FPHL. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this and taking a little trip down memory lane. Or maybe if you're a newer fan, you really didn't look at this season. So here we go. There's a little recap for you. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Of course, coming up this week, Tuesday, we'll be here on Facebook. This is on YouTube, but we'll be on Facebook for news and notes. Of course, Thursdays, we have our midweek report, which is on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. You can choose your platform and listen there. And then, of course, next weekend, we'll be back with a couple more videos. All right. Thank you again so much for watching. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the support. Hit like, hit subscribe, tell a friend, get them hooked on Fed hockey. All right. Thank you so much, and we will catch you soon.